RB. I'm Natalie Lager, and welcome to Let's Talk Books, where I review books of all genres and share my thoughts and opinions on them. Today, I'll be taking a deep dive into some of the most controversial books I've read. We've got 4 books up for discussion today: The Inheritance Games, The Naturals, Five Survive, and We Were Liars. So let's get started. So the first book I'll be talking about today is Five Survive. And so I rate this book a 5 out of 5, mainly because I really liked the writing. I think it grabbed your attention and it really hooked you in within the first 20 to 30 pages. And it felt very fast-paced, which is what I like in books. The plot was also very interesting to read about. It was about, the book is about this group of friends who go on a trip in an RV, and they get lost, and then the RV breaks down in the middle of nowhere. And then they realize that a sniper is targeting them, and then throughout the book, they're just playing this game cat and mouse and trying to survive the night. And I thought throughout the book, especially for this kind of book, the characters were very well developed. Even through the tension, you saw their personalities kind of come through, and I really enjoyed it. I read it within maybe 3 hours, and it was 400 pages, so yeah. So I would recommend this book for people who like mysteries and mysteries and fast-paced books in general. And yeah, so that's Five Survive. The next book I'll be talking about is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I rate this book a very strong 5 out of 5. This is probably my favorite book I've ever read. The writing was really amazing. It kept you intrigued throughout the whole book and the whole series, really, and it really, especially for the characters, you got to know them, but you didn't get to know everything about them in the first book, which I noticed some series does do. And throughout the whole series, you just get to know a little bit about them in each book, and you learn about a different character each time. And I think it was a really great way to write it. So yeah, this book was also fast-paced. That will be a trend. And I also want to talk about 12, which was the last book, a novella. And it was shorter, but I felt like it was a really good wrap-up, and it kind of kept you, it answered your questions in the end, and it just kind of closed everything out in a really nice manner. And yeah. I would really recommend this book, again, for people who like mysteries. And this book was a good classic mystery, but it also had some gore, descriptiveness. And I think if you not a lot, but if you can't really handle that stuff sometimes, then it's not the best book. But in general, I felt like it was a really fun read. And yeah, that's probably my favorite book I've ever read, like I said. So yeah, and now, and comparing that to Five Survive, they did feel very similar. I feel like Five Survive was more of a, I felt like it felt, Naturals felt more of a mystery, in my opinion. Five Survive was very, kind of more, I don't know how to describe it. It was kind of, more thriller, I'd say, and then Naturals, mystery. And overall, they were both really great books. I liked The Naturals more because it was a series and I like getting attached to the characters. But if you like series more, I recommend The Naturals. But if you like standalone books, Five Survive is a great pick. So yeah, now we're going to go to commercial break. Welcome back. So now we're joined with Ellie Dickerson, and we're going to hear her thoughts on our next book, We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. So me personally, I rated this book a 1 out of 5, and Ellie rated it a 2 or 3 out of 5, I think. And so just a quick rundown of what I thought. I thought it was a really confusing book. The ending felt very rushed, and it just overall felt like a good idea, but really not really bad execution, but in my opinion, did not enjoy it. But Ellie, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So I have a few questions. So if the book had been written by a different author or like a different writing style, do you think it would be more enjoyable?
I think this author wrote it in a kind of confusing way, though I did enjoy kind of the more like mystery about it, like trying to figure out what's going on in the main character's head. I think other people would probably enjoy it more, and possibly me as well, if it was written in a different style.
Yeah, I think if a different author wrote it, I would probably enjoy it more, also based on the things I said. Yeah, now this one's hypothetical. If We Were Liars was made into a show or a movie, do you think it would be better than the book, worse than the book? How do you think it'd be perceived?
I think it just depends on the way they said movie or show. It would just be a different style than the book, because the book you get to see, it's like more of the chaos inside the main character's mind rather than like what's going on outside. So the show or movie could be better. It just depends on how they make it.
Yeah, that's really good. I definitely agree. I did appreciate the scene inside the mind, like you said, like seeing her like thoughts when she was trying to throughout her journey in that book. Now, what did you enjoy the most about the book?
I really enjoyed the end. I thought it was a really big plot twist, and I was not expecting it.
And then, what do you enjoy the least?
Some of the language the author used in the book was really confusing. Like, at the beginning of the book, she said, like, the main character had gotten shot, though she didn't actually. So I went on thinking that she'd gotten shot for a good while in that book, but it was just like kind of odd figurative language.
Yeah, you were you were one of the people that were given the book to me, and you had also told me beforehand that was a metaphor, and that definitely helped me get through the book. But I definitely, yeah, if I hadn't known that, I would be terribly confused. Now, do you think, for me personally, the book felt very like hyped up, and it felt very like people made it seem to like it would be a lot better than it actually was. Was that the same for you, or was it like?
See, I did enjoy the book a good amount, but I didn't really think it was as hyped up as it was. I guess that you perceived it to be, but I could see how it could have been overhyped.
Yeah, because you and your sister, like, especially your sister, really enjoyed it, and I just feel like hearing that, and then I went into the book, I just felt very disappointed, especially with how it felt confusing, and it felt like we weren't getting anywhere, and then there was just the end, and it was a big, like, just 10 pages, and then it was over. And for me, that just felt very disappointing, and, like, it could have been more of a build-up.
I did enjoy that aspect of the book where it kind of just, like, throws everything at you at the end. That it just, like, you finally are able to piece everything together later in the book.
Yeah. Now, last question. Did you race to finish the book, or did you kind of slowly enjoy it?
I feel like I don't remember it being a slow-paced read, though I think most people found it to be slow. Though I think I read it pretty quickly.
I read it relatively fast, but that's only because I felt a little bit pressured to finish it, because I did want to get to the end and such. Because, you know, this talk of a big plot twist, and I was like, but overall, I feel like it felt really slow to me. But yeah, well, that was Ellie Dickerson, and now we're going to transition to a commercial break. Welcome back. So now we're going to be going on to our last book, The Inheritance Games, also by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So as you know, The Naturals, I said, was one of my favorite books and was written by the same author, but this book I feel very differently about. So this book is a series. I rated the first book, The Inheritance Games, 4 out of 5 stars, and I rated the whole series in general, the 3 books I read, 3 out of 5. So this book I felt had a good plot, to it, and kind of kept you interested throughout the whole way in the whole series, like much like The Naturals. It kept you thinking and like guessing what was going to happen next, and there was a lot of mysteries in it that was like, it was just really, really, it was a fun read. The characters I felt were very interesting. I really enjoyed reading about them and seeing how they kind of turned out and unraveled. And I feel like throughout the books, again, their personalities kind of shine through more. There were some characters I thought kind of kept the same personalities when it could have expanded more on their character. Now, and the other thing, I felt like the setting was very fun to read. It was, I thought it was, so basically she gets this inheritance and has to move into this house, and she moves into the house, and I feel like the house was very interesting because there's so many different rooms. There's a big mansion. She gets a big inheritance, and she lives in this big mansion, and it felt, you get to know basically the house and the owner who died, but you get to know it throughout the book, and I really enjoyed that part. However, I did think the series did go on for a while. The series is being added, and I feel like the author could just like tone it down a bit and keep it, like the first 3 books were fine to keep. She didn't need to keep adding on. I felt like that's where she kind of went down. And in my opinion, the second book was a lot better than the first and the third. And I feel like in a series, I much prefer the books getting better than getting worse. So yeah, and this series I feel is really good for, again, people who like mysteries. And this book did have some romance, and I felt like the romance was actually really good. It wasn't too much, and yeah. So I felt, it definitely felt a lot different than The Naturals, in the sense that it was more of like a figuring out than a whodunit, which is what The Naturals was. But yeah, overall, I didn't enjoy it the best or the most, but I know it's perceived as a decently good book. So if you read it, I think you'll have fun. And yeah, so thank you for watching Let's Talk Books, and I hope we see you again next week.